welcome to my show. I'm your host Ferdinand, and today we're going to talk about taxes. Okay, now taxes. This is not a. I get a lot of get lots of messages regarding this one. Lots of people are confused regarding when it comes to taxes. Now, I do play a bit of music in the beginning. I do like my music. I'm Jamaican, and yeah, I'm gonna play my music. So, yeah, a lot of people. This is another hot potato. A lot of people, they kind of don't know whether they're coming or going with taxes. So today we're gonna kind of break it down a bit and see what we can make of it. Okay. Now, but before I go into taxes, let me give you a bit of background where it all began. Now, of course, it began back where we all started pretty much. The reason why I say that is because early human society, put it that way. Now, the reason why I say early human society is that most of what we come to know as taxes is just another form of dictatorship or authority. By that I mean, in early human society, the biggest, the baddest among us took the lion's share. The lion's share. Whatever society at the time, whatever society at the time, whatever structure that were in society at the time, the one who had the most influence in society always took the lion's share. Okay, so taxes are just that was just a forerunner to taxes. That the taxes is just they just changed the name over time and it became different, structured slightly differently. In the natural kingdom, it's the same thing. The lion gets the lion's share. Okay, he bullies everybody and he takes it all over and he eats the thing. Okay, he gets the biggest cut of the rump. The in early human society, it was the same thing. Those who that were the chief gets the lion's share. Gets the best hut, the best accommodation to live in, them and their children. The those who didn't do those who did their hard work. Most of the hunters would not get much of the when they bring it back. Those who deem themselves to be the leaders of society, the chiefs, whatever they call themselves, the governors, they'll get they'll take the biggest cut. So that has been happening from early human society. Has always been that way. Okay, now it goes all the way back to Egypt. In early human society, it goes all the way back to Egypt after some of our earliest beginnings. It goes all the way back to Egypt, and of course the Egyptian pharaohs who do the same thing. Them and their little minions who were little paid hired killers and murderers and oppressors and enslavers would run around and try to impose their will on everybody else. And so, of course, they had these scribes used to collect taxes, cooking oil taxes, all the other stuff that they would do, the daily necessity, the amenities. They would tax all these things because to them it was a privilege and not a right, and so they would tax people for all these business. Also, after Egypt, of course, Egypt was the first greatest civilization. That the African continent produced. It was from the bowels of the motherland. There was none greater, no civilization greater than Egypt, from the continent of Africa. Okay, Egypt was the greatest success of the Africans who had built it, and still remained the greatest civilization of all time. Testament to the monuments and stones written and carved. You only have to look at the sarcophagus of the Tutankhamun and all the other pharaohs to see the greatness of the Africans in Egypt at the time. Now, of course, from despite the greatest civilization, the Africans, have achieved just out there on the outskirt of the motherland. You do have the Greeks. They used to charge taxes as well, in a different form. They levied taxes and all different kind of things, except for gifts and personal use. You do find as well that the Romans later on did the same thing. In um, in when the Romans were defeated by the 16 AD, when they came to Britain, and they had this massive uprising. There's a East Anglian queen. She rose up against the I think her name was called Boadicea or something, and she rose up against the oppressors, the Romans that came to invade this great realm of England, of Britain at the time, Breton. And of course, the East Anglian queen, she revolted, rose up and killed a lot of Romans within 100 square miles, took back over London, and all the rest was history, and we know the rest. Nero, the emperor of the Roman Empire, of course, raised an army and, quashed the resistance as it was. And of course, she was defeated shortly thereafter. But of course, it just goes to show you the power of resistance. It was said that up to 80,000 people at the time was killed in England, in Britain at the time. After the Romans were defeated and they left, over time they found it difficult to maintain this realm, and they left. The Saxons, the Anglo-Saxons that took over, they were no different. They also imposed their taxes on the people, and it was very brutal. Nonetheless, the people were always having to pay these so-called rulers whenever they took over this great realm. And I'm going to stick to England because I'm in England, and so I'm going to talk about taxes here. Don't know about taxes anywhere else. Okay. Now, of course, taxes was built upon. Every year it changes. It seems like we got new ones every single day. There's something new. So let me just continue for a little bit. Now, the income tax came about around about 1799. Or then Prime Minister William Pitt the Young. He introduced this tax measure to cover the massive costs of the Napoleonic Wars. These wars that are that the people has to pay for. We don't know who creates them, or who funds them, or who caused them, but the people are stuck with the bill. So of course, in the 1790s, the bill came to us, and the people had to pay to cover the cost of the Napoleonic Wars. Now, the income tax was a temporary measure. It was a temporary measure, and it was only there to, as I say, cover wartime oppressions, as it became oppressions. Now, in 1913 also, just to give you a bit more background here, the government was allowed to collect taxes 4 months after it expires, and it expires every April. Okay, 4 months after it expires. It expires every April. Also, this temporary measure was repealed in 1816 after the Battle of Waterloo. It was reintroduced again, and that again was to cover the wartime costs, the wars that all these various different types of wars. Now, in 1842, it was reintroduced by Sir Robert Peel, and of course, it was levied on the very rich. Kind of didn't work out. Only £6 million were collected of a total revenue of 77 million pounds. So it wasn't much from them. The income tax rose dramatically during the 1920s, and of course, Also in 1907, just go back a little bit here, in 1907, it was also levied. Robert Quash, he introduced it. 1909, the super tax was imposed on the very rich. 1918, a standard tax rose to 30% or thereabout. And of course, in the and of course, it only raised like 10 million Britain at the time were eligible for this super tax, because at that time in the 1930s, people started to, the wealth was in the hands of a lot of people, and 10 million Britons was taxed with the super tax on the rich. Of course, by the 1945s, after the World War II, it became broad scale, and then you had the PAYE system, and the P45s came out, and before you know it, it became a blanket tax on almost every single thing. So in the beginning, the poor man or woman didn't pay it, and rightfully so. But to fund all these wars and all the rest of it, after every war, they reintroduced these tax, and it was only meant for the rich at the time. The rich didn't pay much of it. They always found a way to get out of it. 6 million was raised approximately, or so the story goes. You can never truly know the figures. Out of a budget of 77 raised, and of course, much didn't collect from them. The vast amount of the tax is collected through all of us paying. That's where the real big money is for taxes. Now, of course, it was in its early stages. It was collected by the Inland Revenue, but in April 2005, the Inland Revenue merged with the Her Majesty's Custom to become in the HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Custom. Okay, now saying that the standard, the tax before you, the tax rate before, for you to be eligible to pay tax, you were not eligible until your earnings were almost £1,000 a month. Now 9,440 to be precise, up to 2013. I think they've raised it little bit since. Every April also it has to be renewed, so it expires every 5th of every April. That's when the Chancellor comes out with his little red thing, a little suitcase full of stuff, and he then tells us that he then make the new arrangements to secure the blanket tax on everything again. So it was meant to be a temporary tax to cover the wartime costs and all the rest of it. It was only exclusively for the rich. It was levied on the rich. All of a sudden, all of us become embroiled into this thing about paying taxes, and so it's a blanket tax now. What was meant to be a temporary measure, now every year it's been renewed every year, and it's an eternal cycle. It will never stop, because wars will never stop, and all this spending on weapons of mass destruction every day, every year we're coming out with a new warship or a new this, or it costs billions and billions. Every year some bank need bailing out, every year some sector need bailing out, every year something is going to happen. It's going to happen. And so every year the taxes are either decrease a little and then reimpose and then increase and so on and so forth. So that's how it all begun. That's from our earliest beginnings. It graduated over time, acquiring different levels of degrees and PhDs and all the other degrees that you could possibly achieve. This taxation has achieved it over time to now encompass the whole nation. Now, not only the rich and a few people, now everybody has to pay it. Again, it's not temporary anymore, it's permanent, it's eternal. It'll never stop, and they will never stop it. Of course, until the people stop it. But the people are busy doing all the stuff, so they'll never stop it. or they will find some other excuse to continue it. So every April, what was meant to be a temporary thing becomes permanent. So that's largely the background and the history of all these taxation. We had the East Anglian queen there. She rose up and she got rid of most of the Romans, and took over London, back again from the Roman invaders. And of course, Nero, the Roman emperor, suppresses the resistance against and all these paid thugs and hired killers, guerrillas by day and so-called mercenaries by night, and you name it. But anyway, that's how it all began. And as I say, it did not start here with William Pitt the Young, 1799. Now, sir, no, sir. I'm going to be fair here. This form of thing, taxation, or it's in early human society it wasn't called tax. It's just that the biggest, the baddest would take what they want. A bit like now, the rich can take whatever they want, do whatever they want. Those who are in power and in charge can do whatever they want, and there's nothing we can do about it unless, of course, all the small man rises up against this one big one, and maybe like Goliath, maybe knock him over, throw him with something will happen to him if everybody rises up. He will definitely not be the biggest and the baddest anymore. So yes, so that's how it all began. It was meant to be temporary. 5th of April, every April, the chancellor comes out with a little red briefcase or suitcase, whatever they call it, full of stuff, and is ready to tax you again. Okay, that's how it began. Now, in a sense, rightfully so. I'm going to be fair, lest I've been accused of all manner of things. So I'm going to be fair here, and I'm going to make my disclaimer here also. I'm not telling anybody not to pay any taxes, and I don't give legal advice, and I'll never do such a thing. And if I ever did in the past, it was unintentional, it was not my intention, and I do apologize. Now, the question is taxes on the people, and also can the government license something that is unlawful? Okay, there's two things at work here, and we have to understand these two. We have to integrate them in order to understand how they relate to each other and why I had to merge them. I had to kind of merge them into one. Now, the first question I'm going to begin with is, can the government... all right, let me begin with taxes itself. Now, taxes are important, as I explained in previous videos. Taxes are important to maintain the roads, to provide the schools for our children to be educated, as opposed to sitting under a tree where a coconut can fall in their heads, or a tiger can be passing by and snatch them up. We need critical infrastructure like water to be piped into our homes, all those pipes and so on, the free tap. We need them, okay? We need to access these so that we don't go down to the river and be snapped up by a crocodile, okay? So these are critical infrastructure, roads, so that we can drive and we can walk, or we can travel, do our business on, and not being interfered with by mud. And if it's all muddy and all that, the trucks can't move and so on and so on. It becomes inefficient. The society just can't function. We have to have electricity, otherwise if you switch the electricity off, nothing functions. So it has to be owned by the people 100%, because if a dictator, or if a company decides to hell with the people, I'm going to do what I want to do because I own it, then it means they can switch the power off and we all go in the dark. Now, so it cannot be owned by any one person, and it cannot be owned by any company. It must be owned publicly by the people. That's why we pay all these taxes. So you got housing as well. Housing has to be a priority, because the people need to live, need shelter. So housing is a priority. I'm not saying everybody should get a house. I'm just saying it should be affordable. Housing should be affordable. You should never be struggled to finding somewhere to live. We're living in a human society, and we create government to create all these infrastructure and critical ones, and housing is one of those as well. Affordable housing is a critical infrastructure, because if people can't find anywhere to live, it won't work out, okay? So, taxes, or rightfully so, we should pay taxes. That is 100% rightfully so. Okay? We must pay our taxes. Now, how much of it we should pay is another matter. We'll go into that in a little bit. Now, of course, as I say, over in the 1920s, it gradually increased, and then before you know it, a blanket tax came on all of us, and after World War II, it became what it is. Now, let's break it down a little bit. I've given the background. Now let's go a little deeper into it. If I, if a woman, if I am selling, if I, if I'm short of money and I need to pay my rent or pay a bill, and I take some items from my house, I may have a few phones hanging, lying around I don't use, a couple of CDs and whatnot I bought and was tired of watching them. And I go outside and I'm selling them. Just anybody, I need the money to sort out a few bills. Am I working for the government, or am I eligible to pay tax? Am I working for the national insurance number, or am I working for myself? That's one question. Well, in that circumstance, do I have to pay tax? Now, I'm going to speak for myself, and this is my opinion. Okay? Now, if I'm working for myself, I am not working for the national insurance, the NI, and I'm not working for anybody else. So if I'm doing something for myself and I'm not seeking the privileges that the government will offer, if you pay your tax, you get housing benefit. If you pay your tax, you get this benefit, that benefit. So I'm not seeking a privilege. I just need some money to cover my bills, and I'm just selling what I have. So I'm not working for a company, and I didn't incorporate anything. So in that regard, and I'm not giving anybody an advice here, you take from this what you will. In that regard, I don't have to pay tax. Okay? Because I am not working for the government, and I'm not working for the national insurance number. And I'm not working for anyone. In this regard, I'm only working for myself. I'm doing something for myself. If I set up a barber shop, no. If I'm working now from a business enterprise, like a shop, like a barber's shop, and I'm working inside the shop, and I'm using the services, such as I'm using the I incorporated, I'm using the business name, barber, that go to whatever, barbers, whatever. And I incorporate the business, and I've got all the certificate to say, all right, you don't own it now, we own it, because that's what the certificate is. They take ownership, you give ownership to somebody else. So once you incorporate or apply for anything, you're giving ownership to somebody else. So in this case, if you incorporate your little barbershop, you're giving your company, your business, over to the government. Now they own it, and then for the exchange of ownership, then they give you privileges. Okay, so all right, you'll pay this amount of tax, and if anything happens, you can claim it back, and you can put all your claim and expenses, this, that onto the tax bill. And we will deduct from this and deduct from, calculate this, and then this is what we say you deserve out of your hard work and effort. This is how much you'll get. We'll get the rest. Something like that. But if I am not working from the shop, and somebody, I know my brother wants his hair cut, and I go and cut his hair, and he says, okay, I'll give you 10 quid for your effort. My sister's pet needs the nails clipped. And I said, all right, I'll come around and see what I can do later on after I finish whatever I'm doing. And he goes, and he says, okay, all right, you have to come this far, here's a tenner. If somebody, my neighbor, say, oh, I'm going away, can you just have a look at my dog for me, something like that, I'll buy a beer, take a drink, there's a drink on me. I look after Boo Boo or Poochie. Now, am I working for somebody, or am I doing something for myself? If I stand on the roadside selling cigarettes, not selling, but somebody wants it and they're willing to pay me for it. I have 20 in my hands, and they say, oh, can I have one? I don't know, give me £1. And he gives me £1, and I put it in my pocket. Am I working for you, or am I working for me, myself? Am I working for the government, the national insurance, or a corporation? Or am I just working for myself? If I then swoop down by a bunch of officers, and then before you know it, I can't breathe, they're ready to kill me, is that lawful? Can you kill somebody because they're just minding their business? They're doing something for themselves. They're not asking for any benefit from anyone. They're not getting any benefit. They're just doing something for themselves. If a woman finds it difficult to pay her rent, and she she's rather generous with her she's a lady that doesn't mind, and of course she's gonna do it anyway. And most people will take the view that fine, well, I'm not gonna do it for free. But if in that case, she then gets the gentleman says, "All right, well, thank you for your company. You make me feel good today. I was down, and and whatever the reasons are that the company was warranted." And he says, "Oh, here's something. Buy a drink, drink on me, or for your time." And she used that money and pay her bills because that's really what his intention was, just to pay something, sort something out. Is she working for a corporation, or is she just doing something for herself just to get by, to pay her bills? See, she's not seeking housing allowance. She's not seeking any benefits. She's not seeking any services from the states, such as housing and personal allowance and this, that, and whatever. She's just doing something for herself. Is she working for you, or is she working for herself? Is she working for a corporation, or she's working for the NI number, or she's working for herself? Which one? So that's the problem. The problem is most people don't understand if you don't pay your taxes, of course you go to jail. So the other part comes in now. Can the government license something, grant a license for something that would otherwise be that? All right. Can the government grant something for an unlawful act? So of course the government can't license something that would be unlawful. That is unlawful. So the government can't grant a license for people to go out and kill people or shoot people for no reason. All right. Let's. All right. Let's, because I want to be fair. Let's kind of back up on that a little bit. Can the government license something that would harm you? All right. Let's back up again. Can the government license an unlawful act? Let's skip that part. No. The government cannot license something that would be that is unlawful. Let's skip that part. The government can only grant a license or grant a license for something that would be otherwise unlawful. If you get what I mean. So if the chappie is working out, if the cab driver is, if I am working in a shop or a store, and the store manager say to me, go out and sell these things on the street, don't tell anybody, it's just on the side, that would be an unlawful act. And the reason why well, not unlawful, but it would be illegal. Not unlawful, but illegal. What would be unlawful if the government grants a license for people to go and kill other people? That is unlawful. Injury, harm, or loss. You cannot injure or cause harm to your fellow man. That is unlawful. Especially if it's not justified. There's no good reason for it. If somebody came to invade your country and they're willing to destroy you and your people, that's different. If somebody's crossing the border with a gun and he's pointing at you and ready to shoot at you and kill you, that's different. That becomes lawful because you have a right to defend yourself. But if nobody's shooting at you and you're the only one that's shooting, then it's unlawful. Because nobody's threatening your life. So why are you threatening other people's life or destroying other people's life? Who's shooting back? So that's when it becomes unlawful. You cannot grant something that, you cannot grant a license for something like, Himmler's SS, Hitler's units of killers. The SS was tasked with they were tasked with eliminating those that they didn't see eye to eye with, or didn't like the look of, or their color, or whatever it was. Okay. Or their religious beliefs and so forth. And of course they were granted with the impunity of going around and doing what they wanted. Now that is unlawful and illegal. But if I'm working in a shop and the shop owner say to me, go out and sell those things on the street and bring the money back, don't worry, it's gonna go underneath the till instead of in the till for it to be checked on the tax for tax purposes, then that would be illegal, but not unlawful. Nothing unlawful about that. But it'd be illegal. So lawful and legal is two different things. Right there, as I pin them down. Okay, going out and kill people is unlawful and illegal. But going out and sell something because you want to put some extra money in your pocket despite your corporate, you incorporate a company and you're willing to go through the corporation, but you're willing to hide some money on the side like them offshore companies because of that just tax purposes, then that becomes illegal. Not unlawful, but illegal. And that's where they can get in a lot of hot water for that. But if the woman needs to pay her bill and she goes out and decides, well, she's generous anyway, so what's the point? I'd rather do it for, get something out of it this time. At least I can pay my bill this time. Then there's nothing unlawful or illegal about that, because she's not asking for a benefit in order to get a privilege. She's not surrendering her rights to do whatever she wants to do. It's the oldest trade on the land. It's the oldest trade. So she's not doing anything unlawful or legal. But if she then works from a strip club and she, or some in some organization, institution which is incorporated with your national insurance number and blah 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 and whatever else you put there to hand over your rights for privileges for the grounds of it, or if anything happens and so on and so on, you if you lose your job you get the benefit here and benefit. If you hand over your rights or your property, your company or your business to the government, then in exchange for privileges, then it would become illegal. But again, not unlawful. Nothing unlawful about that. So the distinction must be made, and you must understand the difference between lawful and legal. Okay? Now, saying that, is it against the law not to pay taxes? Can you go to jail not to pay taxes? Well, nobody can put you into prison unless you somewhat consented or you have committed harm against your fellow man, or injury and you decide not to pay just compensation, and loss if you decide not to redemption, pay just redemption. You can go to, you can forfeit your right to life if you cause the life, if you take somebody else's life, you can forfeit your own life. If you take away somebody else's rights, you can forfeit your own rights, and so forth. So, in the case of taxes, you can't go to prison for something that is legislated, an act of parliament. You can't go to prison for an act of parliament. You can only go to prison for it if you consent. If you say, oh, well, yes, I had my company, but, I just didn't want to pay it, then, of course, you have admitted that you were doing something that is illegal. Again, not unlawful, but illegal. And society largely agree that if we use the public road to do business, like Marks and Spencer and Sainsbury's and so on, would ship their lorries, and the wear and tear on the road, we have to, the public has to maintain the road and everybody has to put a little bit in. And if you're going to use it for business, then you're going to create a lot more wear and tear, as opposed to the man or woman just walking down the streets or riding their bicycle or just driving there or just traveling going from A to B. If you're then going to use it for business, then you're obliged, because the society at large agrees, because we all put the money in the kitty to maintain and build the roads. So if you're just going to go from A to B as an individual, going about your business in your property with your property, that's different. But if you're going to use it to earn money, the wear and tear on the road, you may then, of course, legally need to pay your taxes, because it needs to be maintained, this critical infrastructure. Okay, they all kind of need to maintain. Okay, so can the government license something that is unlawful No. If it's on, like, you can't send people go out to kill people. No, that is definitely unlawful. Might be legal. They might legalize the killing of others, like slavery. Slavery took the life of almost 1 billion people, maybe more than 1 billion human beings over the course of its history. And today we have modern day slavery. We have people working in sweatshops for mega companies who earn hundreds of billions every year. And some of the employees, they can't even pay their wage, can't even pay their rent. Some of them have to be making do with caravans and small shelters and food banks. So of course, there are a lot of things that that people could get away with legally, but is it lawful? No. So the government can't license something that is unlawful, but they can say it's legal. So for instance, marriage. Is marriage, can you, marriage is, in early human society, Ginny was always with Johnny. Everybody knows that Ginny and Johnny is a couple, is together. That was it. If Ginny died, everybody know that Johnny, the house, whatever they built together or whatever the arrangements was, belongs to Johnny. Yeah, you're kind of a third party come in, had no interest in it, never helped you build it, and say, oh, I want 40% or 50% of it, inheritance tax. That's unlawful. But it might be legal, because that's another way of getting it, because if you agree to it, is anything legal is just what you have to agree to. Lawful, it's binding. That's something, if you cause me harm, lawfully you can be harmed yourself, or you have to pay some form of just compensation. So so that's the thing. Marriage was once a lawful act. You could, it's your right. One has a right to lawfully do these things, but all of a sudden it was changed, and before you know it, what was lawful became legal, and you cannot do that which was lawful anymore unless, and it's not recognized, and you could go to prison for it. If you say, oh, I'm married to that lady, and you can't prove it, and something happens and you die, the house, you cannot transfer the house over to your partner, because to them, they didn't sanction it. How can you sanction an act that was free to do? You're a right. You can't sanction walking. It's a right. Going about my business is a right, not a privilege. You can't stop somebody and say you can't cross the seas. Who are you to tell me I can't cross the seas? What right have you to interfere with the rights of others? But they do, and they say it's legal. In early human society, people used to just go about their business. You jump in a canoe and you row across the 7 seas. You gallop on your ass or your donkey and you go about your business. Nowadays, you have people interfering you every step of the way. Everywhere you turn, they're interfering with you. Your right to travel and go about your business. Go from A to B. So, the government can grant a license to something that would be otherwise unlawful. So, as I say, if you're operating an automobile for commerce on the public road, then you're classified as a driver. And a driver means you're doing something that is privileged, and therefore a levy is charged on this privileged activity, or i.e. earning money. And so this earning money, or for you earning money, wage for you, an income for yourself, has a levy on it, and therefore and you use the road, you have a lot of wear and tear in the road and so on. And I agree, and we all understand that taxes are necessary. However small amount you may or may not you may pay, it is very necessary to maintain the infrastructure we all have. The old people, when they get young, the disabled, the very young and so on, they're unable to take care of themselves. They're idiots. When I say idiots, I mean they're incompetent. They're unable to. They don't understand. For instance, the young and the invalid, not sound of mind. Those those people are not competent enough to take care of. They're incompetent, right? Like the disabled people, or incapable of, taking care of themselves in certain respects. So they're not able to go out and, lift some old concrete 10 flight of stairs up to build a house. They're incapable of doing that. They're just not capable of it. And therefore, society have some kind of obligation where everybody chips in and we say, okay, all right, if that person is an invalid or that person is too young, maybe, just not there yet. They just not have that strength yet to go and do a man's job. Although you've got millions of kids all over the world doing a man's job, working harder than most men out there and women. So, of course, it's an unfortunate situation that, human society, they're the haves and the haves not. They're just people who, and I'll give you an example here. You know, anybody can be a builder, and this is where the treachery comes in. And for the most part, I'll say treachery. In a way, it's necessary, but in another way, it's a kind of betrayal of your fellow man to a degree. Now, the farmer, he grows the food. He's out there toiling and sweating. These days, it's kind of automized, where everything is machine. Machine just push a button and the thing is there. Plowing the fields, and before you know it, is there laying all the seeds in the ground. Before you know it, the sprinklers come out, and really, farmers don't do much these days. So to use them as an example, kind of these days, I'll use a builder, a man who works on a building site. He has a very manual job. Them bricks are not gonna get up there by a robot. At least we're not there yet. Gotta get up there by somebody. So a laborer on a site. Now, the laborer gets the smallest amount for doing the most work. But he gets the smallest amount. And he does the most work. All the dirty grinding and lifting and carrying up 5 flights of stairs, 2 buckets of sand or mortar, cement, whatever they call it. He does the most work and he gets the least pay. The man who does the least work gets the most pay. Again, it's the those who are stronger. In this case, brain over bronze. It's not the big Muslim man who could overpower the village, and it's not the big lion who comes and throw off the lionesses off the kill. In human society, we have developed this rational reasoning, understanding, all this level of competency, and overpowers or overrides the ability, the physical ability. So once upon a time it was physical. The biggest Goliath, though he was conquered by a small man, so the legend goes. But of course, Goliath was railing until somebody knocks him out. He was always 99% of the time he was a big dog. You always had to listen to him. So the poor laborer will be laboring all day and he gets the least amount. And the reason for that is somewhat rationalized in this metaphor, in this analogy here. So anybody can build things. So if you keep laying a brick, you lay the brick, you lay the brick, you lay the brick, well, you'll build something. If you don't have the wherewithal, the rational, the reasoning, the intellect, the ability to rationalize and to, create a construct, that necessary, deliberate construct. So for a square, and that will represent 4 corners of a building. But if you just keep laying a brick, see, anybody can lay a brick. You can just lay the bricks. You will build something like a big long wall, walls of Jericho, or the walls of Babylon, or the Berlin Wall, or some wall. We're gonna build some wall, but it's not very useful. The Great Walls of China, they're fine, but it's not very useful. In order to, and it wastes a lot of time, resource, and manpower, but in order to build something that is useful to our society, human society, you need somebody to think, a thinker. So you do need the thinker and the doer. So yes, you have the doer, you'll be building, big and strong, and you can lay the bricks, but you need somebody to sit down and say, all right, stop, now turn that brick this way. Stop, turn the brick this way. Stop, turn the brick, and you create something useful. So in a way, it's justified by saying, well, he ain't got no brains. All he can do is build, big and strong. Yeah, it's fine, but that's about it. Somebody needs to tell him when to stop, because otherwise he'll go on forever. And before you know it, we end up with two walls of China. Or this one is the wall of Europe. In this case, the Britain wall. But so you need somebody to tell him to stop and turn the brick the other way, and stop now, put that pipe in and them steel and turn that way. And somebody with a bit more understanding, he gets the bigger amount of money. This time it's brains over bronze. So the man who does the least work will sit down and think and use his brain, find a way to tell the farmer that, all right, I see your harvest was good this year, and because you had a lot this year, we can't pay you the same amount. Last year you didn't have much, so we paid you a little extra. This year you didn't have much, you have a lot, so we can't pay you this much this time. We have to give you less. So the more he produces, the less he gets. And the least he produces, he's back to square one, because he just barely making ends meet. So the man who goes to buy the farmer's food or produce, he then brings it back to somewhere where he makes a ton of money on it. So he'll buy it for 5p a litre, and then he goes back and sells it for £2.50. Because he outsmart the farmer, and then he somehow get the farmer to believe that all his effort didn't work no more than 5p a litre. And then he goes back and sells it for £2.50 and £3 a litre. So somewhere along the line, the man who does the hardest work, not only tax, but also is conned into giving up his produce for very little. And what he gets, they say he gets a little benefit. And what the benefit the farmer gets now is that they make him redundant. So now he's just paid to trim the edges and keep the landscape looking rather like a golf course. And that's about it. That's all the privilege he gets now for stop farming. And what they then do now is to move in the mechanization of farming. And before you know it, everybody's on the dole. Machines take over, the rise of the machine. Human beings on the sideline wondering, what the hell, how did I get conned out of this? You can't even build your own house anymore. One time, good old Bob the builder down the road used to come and make the roof in no time. Him and his friends. Nowadays, Bob is out of a job. It's on the dole. And somebody else you see a house on the back of a trailer. Already made. Or you see a group of people, they come from one company. Or the company of that company and the sister of that company, and they're all branches. But it's just one sector now, and it's controlled by conglomerate. So the man who used to plant his own food, now he sits on the sideline and trim the edges and make it look like a golf course when you fly over and look at it from the sky. He's on the dole now. They give him a little bit and tell him to shut up. And they take over and all this conglomerization of everything, and before you know it, everything is in the hands of a few, and everybody else is on the dole. And machines are doing all the job. And everybody is looking at it and scratching and wondering, how did this happen? When did we? You don't even remember how to lay bricks. Nobody remember how to lay bricks anymore because everybody was redundant for so long. Because everything is taken over by a few people and their machines. So 99% of the people used to be of some value. They could go around and fix that house for no time. Now nobody knows anything. Everybody is customer service assistant or some form of assistant in a store or some factory somewhere. Nobody can make anything anymore because it's just in the hands of a few. So all the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of what we were is long gone. Now we're capable of doing nothing. And if we do try to build a little extension on our house, they say we can't do it. Not allowed. Legally. Not lawfully, legally, not allowed. Because somebody says so. Because the land is owned by somebody. Or something. Nobody knows what it is or who it is. Because nobody can come and claim ownership to it. There's no creational title. What title, what was your title of creation? Well, this patch of land belongs to you. When did you create it? Who's the creator? Do you know the creator of it? What interests have you had? Are you a party of interests? Show me it. Show me your title of creation. When did you create this patch that belongs to you? that's the problem. The problem is we are being duped into believing that all these things are not by design, but they are by design. So without going too far from the main discussion, so if you don't pay your taxes, you can get in trouble because, of course, the society at large agrees that the government can grant a license for something that would be otherwise unlawful. So if you're doing your cab driving and you're not paying your taxes, it is in this case illegal, not unlawful but illegal, because the society says you must contribute to the maintenance of these critical infrastructure, and rightfully so. I pay my taxes and I urge everybody to do the same. But if you're just selling cigarettes, if you have a pack of cigarettes and somebody is willing to pay you £1 for each, and you say, all right, fine. If you're willing to pay me £1, I'm not asking for any benefits from the government or anything. I don't see why they should come and swoop down on you like a bunch of vultures, and before you know it, you can't breathe. You're dying. That somebody's foot is on your throat. It's just not right. It's not lawful. So if a woman goes out there and if you have a couple of phones and you decide to sell them and pay your bills, it's nobody's business. You can't tax me for something. To buy the phone, you pay tax on it already. It's exclusive in mine now. How can you tax me on it again? You can't get taxed twice for the same thing. It's just not right. So although I agree with people should pay their taxes in order to maintain, Granny's house. So who's going to take care of the poor old lady? She needs the water to pipe to her house. She can't go down to that river to take it anymore from that well. Her kind of speed will be snapped up even by a fish. Snapped up by a mud skipper or something. Yeah, you can imagine Granny bending down at the River Nile. Them crocodiles would have couldn't wait for Granny to reach. Lucky for her, she's very slow on the walk. But they can't wait. They're just watching and they just salivating. They can't wait. So of course we need to take care of Granny. We can't have Granny walking down to the river to fetch water. No, sir. We're living in a human society. We all have to look after each other. So it is right that we all pay our taxes. I never tell anybody not to pay their taxes, but of course you have to understand what systems you're operating under or alongside. If you are due to pay it, you should pay it. But we all need to pay. I pay mine, rightfully so. So so that is it. I just thought that I would, because I get a lot of requests for this one also. Should we pay our taxes? Can a government license something that is unlawful or that would be otherwise unlawful? Can they license or grant a license for an activity that is unlawful, like killing people? Very unlawful. We should never be granted any license to do it, unless of course we want to follow the examples of Himmler's SS and the Schutzstaffel and the Begleitbattalion, Battalion, and all the other terrorist groups at the time who goes around and interfere in one's rights and property. That's a terrorist. That's the definition of a terrorist. If you interfere, one who interferes with the rights, one's rights to govern. If you interfere with my right to be free, then you're a terrorist. That's the definition of the word. You won't find it in the modern day dictionaries. What was meant to be is all backwards now, like the man who sniffed the glue and his eyes gone back like a mantis shrimp. Everything has gone backwards now. Okay, what should have been the servant is now the sovereign, and the sovereign is now the servant. You create government to serve you, now you're serving the government, because somebody at some point, somewhere along the line, we lost our way. And before you know it, we're all disenfranchised and all our rights taken and all our properties taken. We don't know whether we're coming or going anymore. So, as I like to say, I don't advocate violence. I don't advocate crime or in any way. And for them youngsters out there who likes to carry knives around and stuff like that, I would love to, encourage them and say, look, don't do it. It's a bad idea. Carrying guns and knives around on you with the intention, or whether it's your intention or not, it is very possible that somebody might say something to you and you get you do something really silly, so, or really dangerous to your fellow man. So don't do it at all. I really discourage that kind of attitude. The attitude where you want what other people have. If you find yourself with that mindset, change it. It's wrong. The attitude is wrong. If you ever find yourself thinking negatively, that attitude needs to change. If you have a habit that is a bad habit, that is not benefiting you at all, makes you really look, that doesn't help you at all, mentally, physically, psychologically, in whatever way. Do not drop that habit. Get rid of it. Change it. You should only take on habits or things or adapt to things that can help you. If it's not working for you, stop it. Get rid of it. Okay. So, of course, I do the show. I try to educate people a lot, and of course, I never give legal information. All I give is general lawful information. You can take it aboard if you want. As I say, common law is the only law that fully protects your rights and property. If you ever need any more information regarding common law, what it is, how it can protect your rights and your property, don't just give me a call on 0757 My website is www.commonlawsolution.org. My email address is commonlawsolution@gmail.com. Send me an old message on the WhatsApp there. Just click that old microphone, just press on it, and record your message, and it'll come straight to that number. I just give it there, 7075-774-62704. Okay, so God bless you all, and I hope you was able to take something away from today's discussion. Okay, in subsequent videos to come, we'll do a lot more. Thank you all for your contribution. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that old subscribe button. In order to do that, you have to log into your account and subscribe. Click the old bell on the side. Also, leave a comment and send me whatever messages you have with any question. It'll be uploaded. It'll be here. It'll be answered. I'll answer the question. I'll upload it on the website so that it can be here, and everybody can also hear the answers to the various questions asked. Okay, so I want to thank you all for your support and your participation in the program. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned. There's lots more to come. In subsequent videos to come, we'll go into court cases, what you should do if you get into certain sticky situation, or what you can do. And as I say, you have two choices, legal or lawful. Whichever one you choose is entirely up to you, and I'll never tell anybody what to do. Okay, so God bless, and I see you all next time. And you all take care now.